Is everybody? Good deal. Well, thank you again for coming. By the way, wasn't last week with, who's the guy putting this on? Oliver? When Oliver was interviewing Gabe. Wasn't that good? I thought that was real good. I really enjoyed hearing what Gabe had to say. I thought Oliver did a great job interviewing him. When I last left you 2 weeks ago, I asked for you to keep a track over the next 2 weeks of everything that you spend, whether it's filling your car with gas or buying a pack of gum. Did everybody do that? Okay, well, good. It'll be more beneficial. All right, and one thing I want to do just a little bit different. I'm going to go through what we didn't go through last week, which was the doing business or not doing business, but handling your finances supernaturally. I just want to fly through those, and then we're going to get into more practical stuff, even though doing things spiritually is definitely very practical. So let's just do this first. We'll just go down through these. They'll be behind you, and you also have them as a handout, okay? And one thing I'd like to do a little bit differently this time is at the end last time, I asked you guys if you had any questions. But we covered so much material last time that I could see where you may have had a question in your mind, and then by the time we got to questions and answers, it wasn't relevant anymore. It went on and so forth. So as long as we're keeping focus, because we got a lot to go over today, as long as we're keeping focus, I'm okay if somebody's got a question. So if we're going over anything specifically, especially when we get into some of the nitty-gritty type stuff, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, okay? And we'll go from there. All right, so let's go through these attitudes of doing business or attitudes of reading, handling money supernaturally, okay? Starting with this. These are attitudes that you want to have as part of you. Because like I said before, everything that we talk about finance-wise also transcends just into your normal life, in your relationships, in your business, in whatever you're doing. These are just principles. So let's start with the first one. My life is not my own. I was bought with a price. 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20. If my life is not my own, then it stands to reason my money is not my own. It's his. It's not 10% his, it's 100% his. And we did touch on that last week. I am his workmanship, and I have been created for specific good works that I should walk in them. Ephesians 2:10. Having that as a mindset. Number 3, if I trust in the Lord and lean not unto my own understanding, if I acknowledge him in all my dealings, he promises to direct my path. And I remember one time I was shaving, and I was praying, and I was asking the Lord to direct my paths. And the Lord just spoke to me and said, are you trusting in me? Are you doing the things that I told you to do? Because you know I'm going to do the things that I told you I would do. And so rather than focusing on the Lord directing our paths, especially you, as most of you here being young, that as you're going out and some of you have already gone down the path of marriage, but some of you haven't gone down that path yet. Some of you have gone down the path that you've got your education under your belt and you know where you're going and what you're doing, but some of you haven't yet. And then for the ones that have gone down that path already, there's much more path for you to go. So the scripture that says that because whatever I do in word because the scripture says, if I lean not unto my own understanding, I trust in the Lord, I don't lean on my own understanding, I acknowledge him in all my dealings, acknowledge him in all your dealings, then he promises to direct your path. Let me give you one quick example of honoring him with all your dealings. What I do for a living, I've been doing it amongst a lot of other things for about 35 years, is I secure money for developers, entrepreneurs, business people to either buy something like a Food Lion shopping center, build something like an office building or 300 homes for the active adult communities or the apartments that you see going up all over the place. This is funny, quick little thing. I'm driving down the road in Landis one day, and I come on this little cute intersection, and somebody's building apartments there. And I turned to Jenny, I said, good grief, they're building these things everywhere. I mean, even in this little town, in this little area, somebody's putting up a stinking apartment buildings. And then I looked at the road, and I financed them. thought that was really funny anyway. So, number 4, my life, my job, my career are one because I acknowledge him with all my dealings, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And because whatever I do in word or deed, I do is unto the Lord. Business and handling personal finances included. That's 1 Corinthians 10:31 and Colossians 3:17. So what I started to say before I sidetracked myself is that I was working on a particular loan, and I was working with this lender, and that lender was able to give me the rates and the terms that this guy wanted for a loan. Great. And this lender was the type of lender that gave me a kickback. So I was not only able to charge the client like I normally do, but I was able to get extra money from the lender. That worked great, right? However, because I had sent it out to several different lenders at one time to see who had the best, another lender came forward and he had better rates and terms, better than what the client had asked for. Well, it would have been so easy for me to have picked the loan that the client wanted, right? I could justify that easy. Hey, this is what he wanted. This is what I got him. I got paid for what I was doing. I just get this extra little kickback. But if I'm not my own, if I've been bought with a price, if I'm a servant, if I give people what they want and then I get what I need and so on and so forth, if I'm doing this as unto the Lord, would I have done that to the Lord? Or would I have given him the better rates and terms even though he didn't ask for them? Well, I knew what I was supposed to do, and it was easy to do. That guy, by the way, became a long-term client. I've been doing loans with him for over 15 years. I've had so many loans from him. The Lord just blessed me for doing what's right. But it's that mindset. It's that mindset. You know, you're going to paint somebody's house, and you got a blanket price for painting it. And this paint isn't as good, but it'll do. This paint's really good, but it's more expensive. And which one do you take, you know? And it's not always a simple answer, but that's the mindset. That's the mindset that you're doing this for the kingdom's sake. The greater includes the lesser, but the lesser does not include the greater. If I concentrate on seeking the kingdom of God, then I can be assured that things that I need are going to be added to me, Matthew 6:33. If, on the other hand, I seek first my needs, then I cannot count on them, my needs, that is, being met, or the kingdom of God as it relates to my life being taken care of. I seek first the kingdom by doing this. Number 6, I don't work to make money for myself. I serve the Lord by serving others and getting done what they need. As a result, I get paid, but my priorities are serving others, not serving myself. This enables me to make decisions that are not self-serving, but rather what's in the best interest of the one I'm serving. I'm going to tell you, if you have that kind of character, you ever hear the story about Stonewall Jackson? He was fishing one day because somebody had asked him to catch them some fish, and he's walking home, and he's got some really good-looking fish. I don't know, I can't remember how big, what kind, how many. But anyway, a guy stops him, and he says, hey, you want to sell those? And he says, no, I can't. I actually caught him for somebody. And the guy said to him something like, well, has he paid you for them yet? And he goes, no, but I fished and caught these for him. He goes, well, I'll pay you. What's he paying you? I'll pay you more. And Stonewall Jackson said, hey, I will be glad to go fishing for you and catch you fish, but I promise these to someone else. It's that kind of character. It's that kind of character that the Lord is looking for. That's the kind of character the Lord can really bless. And that's, again, when you're taking it out of yourself, trying to make it happen for yourself, and following what the Lord is saying, and let the Lord do these things for you. All my income from my business or career or job is the Lord's, not just 10%. When the Lord gave the talents to the men in Matthew 24:14-30, he made it clear that he was returning. They would have to give an account for what they did with his money. Verse 27 makes it very clear that when the Lord gives us money, he still considers it's his. Personally, I'm not going to even go on that one. You can read that one. But, well, I'll just real quick. The Lord spoke to me one time. People in my profession, and you see it all the time, they put up nice big wooden signs on properties that are high profile. You know, someone's building 310 homes. You want to have your sign out there saying, financing provided by Integrity Commercial Finance. looks good. You put your phone number under there. People drive by, they see it, and they call you. And I had the idea that, I'm going to do that. And the Lord just gave me a check in my spirit and said, don't do that. You're not in the phone book. That's back when there were phone books. You're not in the phone book. You don't advertise because I bring you all of your clients. And it was true. The Lord brought me all my clients. And if I did that, then that sign could get some of the credit for what the Lord was doing in my life. Now, that is not something that you'll hear in any business school. Gabe was over here telling you, get that presence, get that media presence out there, that social media. And he was 100% right. And that's probably what you should do. But if the Lord speaks to you specifically to do something different, lean not under your own understanding, in all your way acknowledge him. That's the difference. Makes total sense to do it. Makes no sense not to do it. But it's what the Lord spoke to do. And he's blessed me for it all along. God's provision for Gideon was not more men, more better armor, or better and more weapons. It was his present. The statement, God is only my source, not only my source, but my provision, means this, his very presence is that provision. That's how we started 2 weeks ago. His very presence is that position. He is not just the provision in the natural things he provides. He's not just in the natural positions that he provides. He is the provision in that very presence. Do not look at your deals that you're working on, or your job, or your provisions, or even God's way of providing your need. Look only at his presence, and that's all you need. And hopefully when this is all over, you're going to have such an understanding of that I'm only looking for the presence of the Lord. Okay, so now let's get into a few more fun stuff. Okay, what have we got up here for our first slide? Aha. Okay, the very first principle in financial success is for you to not do what this dude has done, okay? He's paid the government. That's the taxes that come out before you ever even see your check. And he paid his mortgage or his landlord, and then he paid his bank for his car payment or his credit card payments. Then he paid his utilities so that he would have water and sewer and electric. And then there you are. There's nothing left for you. It's all spent. You're happy because you paid all those guys, but there's nothing left for you. So the principle is, pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. I don't care if it's $10 a week. I don't care how much it is. It's the principle of paying yourself first. It's a key principle because if you'll always pay yourself first, the rest will work out. Now, some people say, well, I don't have any extra money at all. I just don't have it. And I've always said that when your gas is really high, like it was $4.27 not too long ago, right? And you put in however many gallons you put in your car every week, 20 gallons, 30 gallons, whatever it was. Somehow you had the money to put it in there, didn't you? And then when it dropped down, because not too long ago, it was like $3.21 or something like that, right? When it dropped down to $3.21 and you had an extra, say, $1.50 a gallon, and you were putting in 20 or 30 gallons a week, that was significant money, wasn't it? Do you remember it being in your wallet? Do you remember looking at the end of the week and saying, wow, man, I got 50 more bucks this week than I had last week. I'm so glad that gas went down because I got an extra 50. You probably never said that. You probably never saw that. You probably never knew that. But the fact is, it was the truth. You spent less that week when gas went down. And so what the best thing to do to pay yourself first is this. Have your employer, or whatever your situation is, have that person take the money out of your check and put it in a savings, put it in a different account, put it somewhere else before you ever get your check. Because I guarantee that if the government didn't take the money out of your check, at the end of the year, you wouldn't have that money to give the government, would you? And the government knows that. They say, I'm not going to not take his money out of 52 paychecks and expect him to set it aside and give me my thousands when the year ends. Government's not going to do that. Government's going to know that they have to automatically have your employer take your money out. Or if you're running your own business, you know that you have to file your monthly or your quarterly estimated taxes. Do it for yourself. If you do it for the government, do it for yourself. Take a certain amount after you've done your budgets and you see what you really have, what you really need, what you could have, and take it and set it aside that way automatically. So here's what happens when you don't do it automatically. You say, this is a great idea. I like what Dean said, and I've done my budget, and you know what? I've got $30 a week that I can set aside every single week. I got $30. You may say I have $100. You may say I have $200, but I got something that I can set aside every week. So starting Friday, I'm going to write myself a check, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in the bank. Or I'm going to pull it out of this account on my phone, and I'm going to transfer it over to this account. And you do it the first week, and you're all happy about it. And then next week, you do it again. Now you're on a roll. And then the third week, something came up, and you didn't do it. And that made it easy not to do it on the fourth week. And maybe around the sixth week, you thought, oh, man, I forgot about doing that. Yeah, I'm going to do that this week. And that's how it goes. That's how it always goes. Don't feel bad about it. That's how it goes. But if you make it automatic, there's a book called The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. I recommend you look it up and get it. And it's about doing things automatically. In other words, automating them. Do it one time. You only have to be disciplined one time to set it up. Then after that, it runs on its own. And you wind up at the end of the month having more money. Even if it's just a little bit, it's more money than you would have had. And at the end of the year, it's a lot more money than you would have had. So that is so key. Pay yourself first. Believe me, all these things will work out. Okay, next one. Do you know how Jesus did the miracle of the bread and the loaves? Do you know the story? He had 5,000 people there. Actually, it said 5,000 men plus women and children. So you're probably talking about over 10, maybe 15,000 people are there. And the disciples come up to him and they say, hey, Jesus, these guys have been with us forever. There is no food. And Jesus says to them, feed them. And it's like, yeah, how do we feed them? We don't have anywhere close to enough money. We don't even know where the closest store is. We're way out here in the wilderness. And so Jesus asked this question, what do you have? Jesus is asking you this question. What do you have? They said, well, we got a couple of fish and a few loaves from this guy. And then Jesus takes it, and all of a sudden, it's not only enough to feed the 5,000, 15,000, whatever were there, but they picked up a ton of baskets of bread and fish when they were done, all the extra. So how did Jesus do that miracle? This is how he did it. The Bible says he asked the disciples what they have. The disciples gave the Lord what they had. The Lord took it, held it up to God, gave thanks for it, and when he brought it back down, he fed all those people. That's how the miracle of multiplication is done. And you can do the exact same miracle. You take, if you don't have enough, or if you don't have enough for yourself and enough to give to others, or if you know that the Lord's put it in your heart that he wants you to have more, then you take what you have now. Take what you have, however much, however little, and give it to the Lord. Give it to the Lord. And then hold it up to the Lord. And then give thanks to the Lord for it. It may be so little. Give thanks to the Lord for it. And then expect the miracle. Watch him multiply it. Now, it could be that you're writing, I keep going old school, you're writing a check because I still write checks, but you're giving money to the church. It could be that you're walking down the street and you see two homeless people laying on the side of the road, and you go to them and you start to talk to them about the Lord, and they ask you, do you think you can get me a bottle of water and maybe something to eat? And you go and you get them a bottle of water and something to eat. And you don't have the money to do it, but you do it anyway because the Lord gave you a divine appointment where you met those people. And you just do this as unto the Lord. You give the Lord what you have, and then you hold it up to him, you give thanks for it, and you'll see it multiply. And like I say, it doesn't just transform your finances, it transforms your life. So let's look at our next slide here, okay? one of you guys asked Gabe a question last week about, or it may have even been me, asked the question last week and said, you know, what do you do about your cash flow? It was me. Do you have puppies all the time, or do you have times where you're feast and then famine? Okay? Now, this is specific for people that are any of you in business for yourself? Okay, maybe not yet, but all of you gainfully employed? Okay? So basically, if you look at your finances like a pond, so here's the pond, all right? You have money flowing into the pond. We could call it business income, or we could just call it your income from your employer. You have money going into the pond. And then you have money coming out of the pond. Now, if you pay yourself first, you're going to have a little bit less or a lot less, depending on your financial situation, a lot less water coming out of that pond than you have putting in the pond. Or at least, doing it this way, you'll have a little bit of stuff extra in the pond. Okay? Now, this happens all of a sudden. You start getting multiple streams of income. There's another book out called Multiple Streams of Income. The book talks about having at least 8 different streams of income. It could be one product, but you have 8 different ways to get it. But it could be, you know, that you have 8 separate streams of income. It's a neat thought to think about and pray, Lord, what are some other ideas? What are some things that I could be doing while I'm at work? Remember I talked about those gumball machines last time? Those gumball machines that were making money while the kids were sleeping, while the kids were at school. There's creative ideas. In Proverbs it says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. Ask God for witty inventions, and you'll learn how to have other streams of income. But here's the flaw with the pond. What most people do is when they have multiple streams of income, or maybe that just represents a nice raise, or it represents an end of the year or Christmas bonus. What they do is they have more money coming into the pond's getting bigger, but they also have more money coming out of the pond. They immediately get the nicer car because they got an extra $500 a month and they're paying their bills now, so I could afford a car for $500 a month. And rather than using that as a way to build assets, they actually use it the opposite way and they go deeper in debt. Or they are out and they're looking for a house to buy, and so they can now buy a bigger house, a bigger car, nicer furniture, fancier clothes. I mean, you can tell I spend a lot of money on my clothes. Why are you laughing? Okay, so, but the key is that one day, perhaps, maybe, that income stream could be cut off. I told you the book that you guys are going to get at the end of this course for coming talks more about my failures than my successes, of losing everything 2 times for sure and almost 3 times. There's times in my life where my income stream, one time for 3 solid years, was completely cut off, I started out real good because I had a pond, but eventually I even ran out of the pond and ran the pond dry. But the key here is that as the money's flowing in, let your pond get bigger. Don't immediately think of creative ways to spend the extra money. As a matter of fact, that's going to be your hardest part if you start paying yourselves first, is you're going to have a reservoir over here. You're going to look at that reservoir and you're going to say, wow, that's where my money's been going. I haven't touched that thing in a year, and that's pretty significant. What can I do with that? Oh, I know, I could use it as a down payment to get into debt. You know, there's all kinds of things, but the key is that if you live out of your pond, and you live within the means of your pond, then your pond will just keep growing and growing and growing. Now, some people say, well, isn't that a lack of trust in the Lord? I mean, if I'm storing up this money, isn't that what he said to the one guy who built all those barns, and Jesus came for his life that day and said, you know, you foolish man, you know? Where did the idea of canning food come from? Canning food was what the pioneers used to do all the time, and some people still do today, where in the season where there was growth and harvest, they took what they needed for today and they put aside for tomorrow when they knew they wouldn't be able to grow tomatoes. So they had the tomatoes and the preserves. So it is a biblical, it is a godly thing to store up for the future. Plus, the Lord may call on you to use some of that pond water to bless somebody else. All right, what's our next slide? The butter patty. That's a big butter patty, isn't it? Okay, so this is something practical that you guys can do right now. A restaurant will make it or break it based on the size of their butter patty. Matter of fact, let's put up that. Oh. If a butter patty is too big in a restaurant, then the waitress and waitresses will come, waiters and waitresses will come, and they will pick up the plates, and there will be all this butter on the plate because the butter patty was way too big. How much do you really need for your toast? And that restaurant's going to be losing money on that butter patty. Now, if the butter patty's too small and there's not enough to butter your toast with, then people are going to be dissatisfied, disgruntled, and they may just not come back to your restaurant again. And that's going to really hurt your restaurant. So you wouldn't think something as insignificant as a butter patty could actually make that much difference, but it really does. So one of the reasons that I asked you guys to write down everything that you have spent is because I wanted you to think about the size of your butter patty. How many things, how much money is going out your door that doesn't really need to go out your door? How many of your butter patties are too big? Matter of fact, I'll just turn around and look at it. Is that all we had on that? Yeah, okay. Matter of fact, let me do it this way. Let me go back to the butter patty PDF. I'll just read off here so I don't have to turn around. Okay. The size of your butter patty. Oh. Well, we got a problem here. I can't see my whole butter. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's not it. Help me, Lord. I can't read. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. And there it doesn't go. Hey, Oliver, how do I minimize this side thing here so I can see my whole thing? I was hoping you'd jump up on stage with me here. Would you? Well, I guess I can just turn around. All right, here we go. Proverbs 27, 23, and 24. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks. Look well to your herds, for riches are not forever, and does a crown endure to every generation. That is such a key one. When I was the vice president of the development company, we were building all the apartments. There were times when we were lean, really, really lean. And when we were lean, we were on top of everything. I mean, everything. And then we started to get fat, really fat. We went from 1,600 apartments to 6,000, or 1,834 apartments to 6,000 apartments. And we were fat, and there was just money rolling in. And it became so easy to lose track of where that money was going. A little bit here, a little bit there, because we were loose. We weren't looking at the size of our butter patty. Well, then all of a sudden, we get to a place where, whoa, we got to put on the brakes. We've got to slow down the money going out. How did we do it? We looked at the size of our butter patty. We said, did we really need this? Did we really need this? Did we have to have this? And so we started breaking down the size of the butter patty. I mean, even in our own home, we did things like, how many channels are we paying for? Well, we're paying for this one, this one, this. What's that one? Oh, remember we watched that show and we had to buy that? And so every month we're paying for a channel that we watched a show on once 7 months ago. We didn't even know it. We didn't have to know it. We had the money. We could pay it. They could pull it out of our account. We'd never miss it. But now we've got to look at it. How many apps are on your phone that you're paying for that maybe you don't need? How many channels are on your TV? How many games are you paying for? All these different things that take your money that you don't even know that it's taking your money, or you know but you don't care because you have it. Well, think about this. Every one of those things that you can eliminate will reduce the size of your butter patty. And you know what happens when that butter patty gets small to the right size? It automatically creates more money for you to have automatically taken out of your paycheck and put into a savings account where it can earn something for you. All right. Let's continue with that. Proverbs 6, 9 through 11. How long will you sleep, O sluggard? When will you rise out of your sleep? Yet a little sleep, not a lot, a little slumber, not a lot, a little folding of the hands to sleep, So shall your poverty come as one that travails, and your want as an armed man. That just means you're getting fat and happy. You're getting lazy. You're not looking after the things that you should be looking for, and the next thing you know, you're in ruin. Proverbs 10:4, he becomes poor that deals with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent makes one rich. Is that the only slide on that? That takes it in there. So those are really good keys to think about when you're looking at your personal finances. Not being sloppy, not spending things just because you have it to spend, but really thinking about, like, let me give you an answer. You know what really makes me upset? When I see somebody with bad tires on their car. Now, I personally am the kind of person, if I see some woman and she's got 2 kids and she probably, don't want to judge her, and she's got bald tires on her car, I will go and buy tires for her. I've done that on several occasions because I know how dangerous it is to be driving, especially with kids in the car with bad tires. But here's what makes me mad about tires on a car. Do you know that they don't last forever? Do you know if you own a car that one day you're going to need to replace those tires? And so plan for it. Put away however much those tires cost, that much in a year. I mean, real simple math. My tires will last me 40,000 miles. I drive 10,000 miles a year. That means they're going to last me 4 years. They're going to cost me $400. I'm going to take the 4 years. I'm going to put aside the $400. How much per year? And when the tires are needed to, except for adjusting for inflation, you got the money for the tires. There's no reason bad tires should creep up on somebody. And all that basic maintenance, there's no reason it should happen. So anyway, that's what looking over, being diligent. Did I hit a sore spot there? I'm sorry. Okay. All right, let's go on. Let's go on to the latte factor. Okay. Okay. What's so funny? Okay. This book is old. This is David Bach's book, The Automatic Millionaire, okay? And so here's a couple of things that are no longer applicable. For one, the average cost of a latte and a muffin is $5 a day. No longer true. However, to keep things in perspective, putting your money somewhere where you're going to get a 10% annual return is also no longer true. Okay, unless you have it in some kind of a vehicle that could get you 10%, it's going to be like in the market. And so if it can get you 10%, it can also lose you 10%, right? So it's not safe. You're not going to find a CD or a banknote, or you're not going to find anything that's going to give you that consistent 10%. But you're also not going to get a muffin and a latte. So let's just go with just the latte every day. So that's $35 a week. Turns out to be $1,885 a year. For anybody in here that's 25, when you get ready to retire at 65, you will have spent almost $1 million on lattes. $1 million on lattes. But I don't have any money that I can take out of my check before I get my check. I need every dime I get. Is that crazy? And it's real. Okay, go to the next slide. This is cool. If you invested $10 a day, that means you're investing $30 a month. You invest $30 a month every month and you don't touch it, you're looking at almost $2 million by the time you're ready to retire. So if I asked you, can you guys be like multimillionaires by the time you retire? In your mind, you'd be thinking, I mean, how? How could I do that? Maybe I'll land some really great corporate executive job with a really good 401k, and my company will match it and actually give me more, and who knows what it'll look like in 40 years. But that is such a simple way to get to that place. It's the money from the apps. It's the money from the lattes. It's how many times you go out to dinner a week. How many times you go to the movies, how many times you go clubbing. I don't know what you guys do these days. So it's how much you spend on alcohol. I mean, I'm being totally serious. It's those type of things that add up. By themselves, they're nothing. They're so nothing that you don't even consider them. But then when you put it into this kind of a perspective, see what a difference this can make? And this is real. This is real. All right. Check this out. This is a true story. This is a true story. And this is how you get to where you want to be in anything you do. Pardon the graphics. By the way, I tried GPT. I tried so many ways. These are a graphic from a book I did, which was really kind of a joke. And just like the pay yourself first guys, they look good, right? GPT did real good for me on that compared to what I had. However, I had such a hard time with this. I spent hours and hours and hours trying to get it to do what I wanted it to do. It would have the kid not in the water. It would have like what looked like a dead body laying there. It would mix the kids up. It would have them swimming in the wrong direction. I finally called Scott Forsythe up and said, Scott, I need help. Scott couldn't get the stinking thing to do what it should do. But I went to DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo's got an AI, and I got the best results from that. So this is the first one from ChatGPT, okay? Now this is a true story. The blonde-haired boy is my son Daniel. The dark-haired boy is my son David. And this is what happened. We had a nice 36-foot-long pool in our backyard that we had put in Concord. And they were both standing by the diving board. And I said, hey, guys, which one of you can swim further underwater? So Daniel jumped in the pool. There he is, jumping in the pool. He's blue. He died. And he had a goal, okay? This is what we're talking about right now. You need to be setting goals for yourself. Setting goals for yourself for finances, for getting a house eventually. You know, I got a long-term goal of how am I going to retire? And can I just tell you something? I was your age just a few weeks ago. I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many times I would have old people tell me, oh, you know, enjoy your kids. You're going to blink your eye and they'll be gone. Well, you know, now I got 20-year-old grandkids, and it was a blink of the eye. Or, you know, just all these things about how fast time goes. But time is like a roll of toilet paper. You ever notice that the toilet paper, when it's brand new, it's nice and big, and it takes a while to start getting smaller, right? But then when it starts to get smaller, it doesn't take as long to get smaller. And as it's coming to the end of the roll, it's going really fast before it runs out. That's what life's like. It's like a roll of toilet paper. It really is. And at your age, you almost can't even think that really can't happen. It really doesn't happen that fast. But I'm going to tell you something. You turn around and you're where I am. And it's not too early to be thinking about your retirement. It's certainly not too early for you to be thinking about the next car you're going to have to buy, because not only do tires wear out, the whole car does. It's not too late for you to be thinking about the first home you want to buy. Or better yet, how many homes you will own when you retire. Now, next week, we're going to be, or 2 weeks from now, we're going to be talking about amortization schedules, okay? And I don't know if we can do this, but what I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to be able to play with an amortization schedule and email it to you immediately while we're doing this and have you throw it up there. That'd be able to do? Okay, and we can have real fun. I don't know if you guys ever played with amortization schedules. It is so awesome to play with those things and see what your money could do for you. Not you working for your money, but your money working for you. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, you could buy a house, have it paid off in 20 years, and save hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest just by knowing how to work your amortization schedule. So at your ages, you're all around 20-ish, right? And you're 20, right? You could buy a house. You can pay it off in 15 to 20 years. That means you're young enough now to buy your second house and pay that off in 15 to 20 years. At the very least, you could be living in a paid-for house when it comes time for retirement and have another one that just gives you residual income because you have no payment on it and that renter's paying you every single month. And it's so doable. It's so doable. So Daniel jumps in the water, and he has a goal. But here's Daniel's goal. Swim as far as I can. Do you know that's a sucky goal? Swim as far as I can. Okay, milquetoast. Daniel goes, and he swims as far as he can. And that's where he landed, right there. He's so happy. He's supposed to be facing me, but he's facing the other way because of ChatGPT. All right, next slide. Now, we're getting even more high-tech. Okay, so now David's turn. But David has a different goal. David's goal isn't swim as far as I can. David is underwater looking at Daniel's feet. David has a goal. Swim past Daniel's feet. Now, where David may have just popped out of the water any place, he ain't popping out of that water. He is holding his breath a little bit longer, a little harder. He's pedaling a little bit faster because he has got to get past Daniel's feet. And that's exactly what happened. He got past Daniel's feet, and he won. Now, for those of you who don't know, Daniel is the older brother. And older brother is not going to be beat on an underwater swimming race by younger brother. So Daniel says, wait, don't, oh, sorry. I yelled in the mic. Wait, don't move. Stay right where you are. And he gets out of the water, and he runs over to the diving board again, or the edge where the diving board was, and Daniel jumps back in the water with his new, renewed goal. Get past David's feet. And look what he did. He got past David. Now, what changed in the 5-10 minutes between when he went as far as he could or far as he thought he could and when he went past David's feet? The only thing that changed is he had a defined goal. It wasn't an abstract goal. It wasn't do the best I can do, make the most I can make, save as much as I can save. It was a calculated goal where he could see where he wanted to be, and as a result, he was able to get there. That's real important. That's real important. Okay. So when I'm talking about goals, a few things I just wrote down. Saving up for a car, saving up for a house, saving up for retirement. I want to be a doctor. You know anybody that says, I want to be a doctor? Really, you want to be a doctor? That's really cool. What kind of doctor? Oh, I think I'd like to be a brain surgeon. Wow, that's neat. What are you going to do about it? Well, I don't know, but I want to be one, right? Well, no, I plan on graduating high school, and then I plan on taking 4 years of college and getting my degree, and then I plan on going and doing, I think it's 4 years of med school, and then I've got residency, I think it is, that you do after that, and that is your plan. I used to have this saying, I heard it years ago, it's plan your work and work your plan. Isn't that a good one? Plan your work and work your plan. And so you have to have that plan for whatever it is that you're going for. You have to have that plan. Here is a big one. I don't know, based on your ages, if you guys are already in the trap of credit card debt. You don't have to raise your hand, okay? Credit card debt is terrible. I went the other day and bought, what was it? A washer and dryer at Lowe's. And the woman said to me, I put it on my Lowe's credit card, and the woman said to me, are you going to pay that off at the end of the month? And I said, oh, yeah, definitely. Always pay all my credit cards off. Usually pay them off on the 1st or 2nd of the month, even though they're not due till the 21st. And I said, oh, yeah. And then she goes, no, I mean, really? Are you really going to pay it off? And I said, yeah, why? And I used the Lowe's credit card because I get a 5% discount by using the credit card, right? So it saves me 5%. It doesn't cost me anything. She goes, because our interest rates are now 30%. 30% on a Lowe's credit card. It's terrible. So let me give you a plan or a goal if you are, without divulging your sin, if you are in credit card debt, okay? There's 2 schools of thought. I'll tell you the one I like best. The first school of thought is take your credit cards and look and see which one has the highest interest rate, the one you're paying the most interest on, and pay off that credit card first. Then take the money that you were spending on that credit card and add it as an extra payment to the next credit card, and then pay that one off. And then take the money from those 2 credit cards and add it to the 3rd credit card and pay it off. So, little personal story, because I'm not afraid to talk about my failures. Back in high school, I was called, by myself, Andrew Dean, the rock and roll machine, okay? I had a goal that I was going to be an incredible rock star. I wrote songs, I didn't play guitar, and I didn't sing, but I was going to be like Steven Tyler. I was going to be Aerosmith. And I wanted it so bad, it's all I could think about. One day I'm in geometry class in 10th grade, and I'm in the back of the classroom sitting next to Becky Lang. And I said, Becky, what am I even doing here? I said, I don't want to take geometry. And she said, well, what are you going to do when you get out of school, Dean? I said, I'm going to be a rock star. She goes, you don't need to have geometry to be a rock star. I said, you are so right. And I picked up my books, and I threw them on the desk of the teacher, and I walked out of the room. And then I'm in Giant Food Mart where I work, and I carry groceries out. I help people bag their groceries, and I carried it out to their car. That's something they did upstate New York. And the manager came up to me in my senior year, toward the end of my senior year, and he said, so Dean, what are you going to do now that you're graduating high school? I said, I'm going to be a rock star. And he said, well, what would you think about learning how to cut meat while you're waiting for that to transpire? So I got a job in the meat room learning how to cut meat. And it was cold, and I've always hated the cold, and it was terrible. But it was the first step that I ever took toward actually having a real job that could turn into a real career, that could become something. Anyway, so I'm not sure why I went there. Andrew Dean, the Rock and Roll Machine. There it is. Okay. So Jenny and I decided we're going to start an Amazon business. And so we called it ADRM. Isn't that cool? Sounds good. ADRM, right? No one knew it stood for Andrew Dean Rock and Roll Machine. So here we are in ADRM, and you get hooked up with these companies out of China, and you come up with a product, and then you source it, and then you have it sent to you, and then after you have it sent to you, you know, then you do all this stuff with Amazon where you have to pay for ads, and you get reviews, and you do all this stuff to get to the top of the page, and so on and so forth. And Amazon makes so much money, but you don't. And what we were doing is we went all in. Stupid, right? We had one stream of income, a brand new business. And I wasn't doing the financing at that time. It was between the Stein Group, and then I shut that down, and then I resurrected it as Integrity Commercial Finance. But it was in that middle section there where I was just tired of doing it. I wanted something different, something challenging. I love starting new things. Well, we had to use our credit cards to buy the supplies. Well, we sold enough supplies per month to pay our bills. But that meant there wasn't anything to pay off the credit cards. So when we went for our next shipment, we had to use the credit cards. And we had to use the credit cards. And we had to use the credit cards. And now I'm sitting here and I'm looking, and we are $80,000 in credit card debt. $80,000, not 30% interest. There were some that were as low as 21 or 26. But we were $80,000 in credit card debt. And it wasn't one credit card. It was multiple credit cards. So here's what I did. I went to the Lord, and I repented. That was the first thing. I repented. Oh, no man, nothing but to love him. I used these credit cards instead of trusting in the Lord. And so I repented from doing that. And then I said, Lord, how do I get out of this debt? And this is what he showed me. So this is another way of paying off your credit card debt, and I like it better because it's what I did. It's what he said to do. I didn't take my lowest interest rate. I took my smallest credit card debt. I took the Capital One card that maybe only had $1,200 on it. And the reason I did that was because I made a tangible goal. I was looking at David's feet, Daniel's feet, and I knew that I could do that. I knew I could do that. No matter what was going on, I could get that $1,200 paid off. It was an attainable goal. It was a bite. How do you eat an elephant? Do you know how you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? I knew I could get one elephant down. So not only did it give me like, oh, wow, we don't have 10 credit cards anymore. We only have 9. But it was real. It was real. And I no longer had that $50 a month payment, which was only paying interest anyway. Now I have the $50, and I can put it with this next credit card that has $2,200 on it. And I got that one paid off. And I got that one paid off. And then, of course, I resurrected Integrity Commercial Finance, and the Lord started blessing that business. I did not take the additional money that I was making in Integrity and start going out to dinner all the time. I didn't start buying toys. I didn't start increasing my standard of living. I used the money to pay off the credit card debt. I had to be diligent to know the state of my herds. I had to look at my wall and see it broken down and know how to rebuild it. Another thing that happened to me, and I'll go back again, I had a furniture store in New York, and I did not know anything about business at the time, anything. And I was not paying the IRS 941 taxes. And finally, the IRS came to my, my store and said, let me see your books. Now, you'd have to know me. I think a little bit of my history, and you'll read it in the book. I was just a messed up drug addict kid whose mother convinced the school to let him graduate because I didn't have enough days or enough credits, okay? I knew nothing. Then I got saved by grace. God delivered me. I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I just went for it without wisdom. So when the guy came in and wanted to see my books, this is what I said to him. Sir, I'll be honest with you. I really don't read. Well, he got so mad at me thinking I was this cocky mouth. And I said, no, you can look in my office. I don't even have a bookshelf. I mean, I was that naive. I want to see your numbers. Anyway, I wound up owing the government $15,000 in back taxes. But the government, it taken a long time to find out that I owed them that, and it was building. So they put interest on that. And then they charged penalties. And then they charge interest on the penalties. I owe the government $100,000. I'm a 26-year-old kid that owes the government $100,000. What the heck am I going to do? So anyway, I had a goal. Figure out how to escape. But I hate going on these rabbit trails, and then I forget where I was going with this. What were we just talking about before we said that? Yeah, so the game, the goals, paying off the credit cards. I totally lost it. Anyway, I know exactly where I'm going with that. So then I get this job working for this developer, and I start making good money. And so I go to the government, I get an attorney, and I go to the government to do what's called an offer and compromise. They look at you, they see over the next 5 years how much money, if you threw every extra dime you had past bare minimum living expenses, how much could you pay them over 5 years, and they'll clear your debt for that. So they came up with a number of $32,000. This is back in the 1990s, $32,000. And so that's what we did. We did an offer and compromise, and then the Lord blessed me through the business to where I had $32,000. And I went and I wrote that check for $32,000 to the IRS. I was going to be free from a bondage I thought I would carry my entire life. And then I said, you know, Lord, I could buy a Mercedes with this. Back in the 90s, you could buy a Mercedes for $32,000. I could buy a Mercedes with this. And the Lord said, you didn't ask me for a Mercedes. You asked me for the money to get out of debt. Okay? I could have used that money and just stayed in debt and been an idiot and not paid what I needed to pay and do the right things. But God provided the money for what I need. And so just like fast forward to ADRM and needing $80,000 to pay off all those credit cards, I literally had just a piece of paper where I had the name of each, Capital One, Discover, Bank of America, you know, right on through, had them all there, had nice little lines of what the balances were, kept a running track of it, paid this one off, put a big X in that column. That felt good. Paid that one off, put an X, kept going. You know, Jenny, look, we've only got 7 more to go, and all those things. And then it took about 2 years, but we paid the $80,000 off, and we were free. And we said, never again. And praise God, he's been faithful to keep us faithful, never again. But that's what setting goals for yourself does. And remember, the reason the credit cards were so much is because credit cards have compound interest. Compound interest is where you take the interest you owe, and if you don't pay it all, then you have interest on the interest. And next month, you have interest on the interest. But the opposite works in your favor. For instance, if you pay more than the interest, then you have less principal. And your interest is based on the outstanding principal. So the more principal you pay down, the less interest you pay. So then every single month, you're chopping into principal, and every month you're paying more and more of the principal and less of the interest. And when you put the money in the bank with compounded interest in some vehicle, the interest you made this month, you now get paid for the principal plus the interest you made. And so compounded interest can work in your favor or it can work to your detriment. But you're in control of making it work in your favor. What time? No way. It's 8 o'clock. Okay, let me do this one real fast then. Let's go to time. Let's go real fast to the time slide. All right. The Lord showed me this one time. He said the difference between waiting and hesitating is, what was it? It was waiting is holding off until God says to go. But hesitating is holding off after God says to go. A lot of people don't make the moves that they need to make because they're hesitating. They know what they're supposed to do, but they don't do it. And then the Lord showed me something really unique about time, and you can just throw it up there, and I'll talk about it. Whenever you eliminate time, which is a gift from the Lord. By the way, did you know that there was, you wonder how God has always been here and always will be? It's kind of easy to figure in your mind he'll always be here, but it's so hard to think he's always been here. It's because we are limited in our minds to this realm of time. God lives outside of the realm of time. So there was a time when God started time. And there is a time when God is going to end time. Time is not an eternity, okay? So we have this gift given to us called time. So let's say I cut myself and I'm bleeding. And I need to get to the doctor. And I've got the gift of time to get to the doctor, and I get there and he stitches me up. But what if I went into one of those arteries and it just started shooting? And I don't have time to get to the doctor. I just went from a situation to a crisis. What if I have a bill that's due? Man, that bill it's my taxes. I just got my tax bill. $3,600 so they can pick up my garbage. $3,600 I've got to pay. But it's not due until end of the year. I get a little discount if I pay it in July and a little less discount if I pay it in September, but I can go all the way to December 31st with it. It's $3,600. I've got time to pay that bill. But what if it came and I'd forgotten about it and it came with a big red past due notice, we are going to levy your home Friday, and I don't have it. I just eliminated the quotation of time, and therefore it went from a situation to a crisis. You are in control of it being a situation or a crisis. Planning your work and working your plan. Knowing of expenses that are going to be coming up, knowing of situations you're going to be getting into, knowing of these things ahead of time, taking the time to think them through, and then creating a plan to get there will keep you in situations and keep you out of crises. All right? We didn't do anything on budgeting, and we don't have time to do it. So what we're going to do is next week, John Crowley is going to be speaking to you guys. It's going to be really good. I may be in town. I may be out of town. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd love to be here because I'd love to hear what John has to say to you guys. And then the guest speaker after that, and then on August 3rd, that's our last one, we'll wrap up. And what we'll wrap up with is having fun with the amortization schedules, okay? I'm going to have you guys throw numbers at me, okay? And then we're going to put them into the schedule, and we're going to see how they work. And it really will amaze you and excite you, and it'll motivate you. And you'll be able to use this information to create yourself a plan, to give yourselves feet underwater goals that you can attain. And it's going to really be a blessing. I know we're out of time, but any questions? Yes?
Yeah, you talked about investing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What are some starter investment platforms? Do you recommend just a savings account, jumping straight to the S&P 500? What are some keywords to look for?
There's a lot of different places. The safest thing you could do right now is get a CD. Okay, if you leave it in a savings account, you're gonna probably get like 1.5% interest, right? If you go to a CD, you could get as much as 4 times that much. Okay, so getting a certain amount into a 6-month CD, a 12-month CD, that's where you're going to get at least a little bit of money. I'll be honest with you too. I wouldn't be afraid of buying silver right now. True silver, 99% silver, 1-ounce coins. They were trading for $18 just a couple of years ago. They jumped up to $126 just a few months ago, and for some reason they're down to like $57 right now. They're going to go back up. They're a pretty good investment, more for long term. The S&P, I would probably wait on that, especially right now. The S&P is really high. Like every day, it's breaking new. I think it closed today at like 70. Was it 75? Something like that today. So, and you want to have more of a substantial amount before you go into the S&P. 75.15 today is what it closed at, and the Dow Jones closed at 52,500. So right now the market's high. So if you buy now, you're buying high. You could save up money so that when you see a big drop, you have it in the savings. You're not spending it. You're just transferring it out of this pocket and you're putting it in this pocket. Only this pocket earns more. So that's places that you can do it with. Safest would be a CD right now.
And are those good options for the 35-week figure or whatever?
Yeah, now you'll probably take that 35 a week and you'll put it in your savings account until you get to a substantial, amount, several $100s. Or call your banks, and don't just call your bank. Call several banks. Ask what they're paying for CDs. Find out, based on how long the CD's for and how much you have to put in it, and look at it that way because they do vary. Any other? All right, I'm really looking forward to our last one. I think we're going to have fun with the budgets. If you want to continue to track your spending, it only will help you. It only will help you. It'll give you just a real handle on where your money's going and could you make that butter patty a little smaller so you can make that automatic withdrawal before you get your paycheck a little bit bigger. All right. This was fun. At least it was for me.